Hi, everybody, and welcome back to All Day Tea Party. My name is Zenobia Goodman. I'm your host, and here we're going to figure life out together, ask the big questions, and learn more about ourselves, all while making sure not to take ourselves too seriously in the process. All right, so we're back and we're better. I honestly had a little sabbatical. I gave myself a little February break and didn't tell anybody and did not inform the people. I low-key was giving my Taylor Swift Reputation era. I think this is giving Reputation era. I'm being so honest with you guys. And honestly, if I think about my life, I'm yeah, I might be in my Reputation era, which is a fun era to be. Anyways, let's hop right to it. So sorry about the sabbatical and no communicating. Oops, we won't. Okay, I was going to say we won't do that again, but I actually cannot promise that. So we might do it again, but we're back, we're better, and I'm really excited about today's episode. All right, so weekly updates. What has been going? So it's been, I want to say 2 or 3 weeks. So what have I been up to? I've honestly been in my self-care era. I do yoga now, guys, as of 3 days, but I do yoga now, so I'm so zen. But I've just been in my self-care era, lots and lots of that, lots of planning, organizing, kind of preparing for the future, applying to grad school, all that stuff. I'm very much focused on what I have coming up next, so I have very little time for anything else. But honestly, I think that's a good thing. I'm really excited. I've got big plans, big move coming up as well. So things are going to be good, groundbreaking. Super, super excited to be here. I also, you guys should all be so proud of me. I finally booked my appointment for my optometrist. So I'm going to be going to the optometrist soon. But the earliest appointment they had available was March 16th. So I have to wait almost a month, but that's okay because I was smart and didn't wait until my contacts were completely gone to remake my appointment. So look at me go, being an adult. I also went to the dentist, which I think is such a slay. I was really procrastinating that one, but I did it. So we're here. We're doing great. Everything's fine. We're mainly just in a little bit of a season of focus. And I feel that's kind of how I've felt all 2024 so far is we're just focusing. And I'm kind of hoping spring and summer are coming and that's going to kind of change the vibe and it's going to be more fun, flirty, funky, fresh, cool. But right now, we're really just we're in our focus era, we're locked in. So that's that. Okay, so first up, let's just get into a reality TV update. As y'all have known by now, I am obsessed with reality TV. I'm always in the mix. I'm in everybody's business. So this last couple of weeks have been very overwhelming for me because we have The Bachelor, Vanderpump Rules, Love is Blind, Couple to Thruple, which is another one I just discovered, and we'll talk about that. So I'm literally scrambling to catch up on my shows before I see any spoilers on TikTok or Twitter or anything like that. So let me talk about my opinions thus far because I am all caught up. Okay, so The Bachelor, I am caught up as of February 20th. So if you did not watch Monday's episode that came out February 19th, skip. Okay, so first of all, I am Team Maria all day. Jealousy is a disease. Those women need to get well soon. I love Maria. I think she is so fun, so spunky. She just has a great personality. She is the life of the party. She does give this man a run for his money. You know what I mean? She's entertaining, she's feisty, she's fun, and all her outfits eat. I love Maria. I thought the way that the girls in the house were treating her was really weird and I said, it's totally giving jealousy. I also really like Daisy as well. I see a lot of people on TikTok being it's going to be the two of them. And a guy like Joey needs somebody like Daisy. And I'm shut up. What are you guys even talking about? And also we don't really know these women. One, their personalities are very clearly very different. And that's okay. I think they're both amazing. And at the end of the day, we'll just watch the season play out. I don't need a think piece on who we think he's going to pick based off of whatever assumptions we've created in our head about oh, well, this is the nice, sweet Midwestern girl. And then this is the feisty girl. I don't care. I don't need a think piece. Sorry. Moving right along. We have Love is Blind. Whew, Chile. Okay. Y'all, this is mess. I feel Love is Blind, after season one, where Cameron and Lauren like actually found love, the show like has fallen apart. And I think that now the producers are just leaning into mess. Like that's all it is. I don't even think it's about love anymore. So we're going to go couple through couple. I'm going to make this quick and we're going to get right to it. So we're going to start with Clay and AD. I did a little pause because I'm like pouring one out for my girl AD because Clay is literally, when I heard that man talk, I was like, that is a man that's that's a man that's gonna ruin your life. Like I know it. Like I just felt it in my soul. And his whole like, oh well, like I want to know what you look like before I get out of the pods. Like, excuse me, like that defeats the whole purpose of the experiment. As well as when they were like at their honeymoon and they were chit-chatting and he was like, yeah, like if you got out of shape, I'd tell you to go to the gym. And I'm like, I'm not sure I like you. But he's also like very like suave and like charismatic. So like I see the appeal. Like, you know, I definitely get the appeal. And it appears that like AD enjoys men that are red flags. So I get it. I see the appeal, says like this is a safe space. Like you're good. But also and like Clay, like I said, Clay just like he gives like very large ego. Like I don't know what about him screamed like I'm going to be a good husband, but you know what? We'll see how it plays out. I want to talk specifically about AD. I think she's amazing. I think she's groundbreaking. And something I noticed that I thought was really weird was like the apparent like sexualization between like her and the other castmates sexualizing her. So I'm just going to like note like one thing in particular. So when they were at the beach, like on the little cocktail party, meet and greet, whatever, one of the like other men, I think this is Jimmy or Johnny. I don't know. There's a Jimmy, Johnny, and then there's another one, like all J names, all like generic white men. So I might like mix them up, but whatever. So one of them, this is the one that's with Chelsea, the lady that looks like Megan Fox. But he's talking about like how her butt looks so good and like, you know, it's like a bookshelf and like whatever. And I'm like, that's fine. But like, why are like, you know what I mean? I was like, why are we talking about this? Like, and AD wasn't doing anything crazy. She was just like standing there in her little dress. Like, you know what I mean? And I thought like the sexualization was weird. It made me uncomfortable, but we'll see how it goes. So that's AD and Clay. Next we have Kenneth and I can't remember her name, but like very sweet Southern lady. I think they're very cute. I do think that like, so at a point AD, because Kenneth is white and Kenneth is black and his fiance is white. And at a point AD was like, oh, BT dubs, like, do you think that like, you know, you've never dated a white woman before? Like, do you think that like she could raise black children because like their kids would obviously be black? And I was like, valid question, such a good question. Like, you know what I mean? I think like in the real world, like before people had gotten engaged, I think that's a question that like all interracial couples would be posing. But I saw people on TikTok being like, that was invasive. And I'm like, I don't think it was. Like personally, the only people I saw disagreeing with that were white. So I don't really take their opinions into account when it comes to black children. Next up, we have Chelsea and either Johnny or Jimmy. I literally can't remember his name. Well, we're going to talk about Jessica first. I love Jessica. Her EpiPen line, that cinema, literally cinema. Loved her. I feel bad for Chelsea because she clearly seems to be like a little insecure, and it makes sense. Like she talks about how she's been cheated on in the past and like all this other stuff. And Johnny or Jimmy, I don't know which one, isn't exactly that like reassuring. Like, you know, when they had first met, like, well, not when they had, you know, when they had first met, he mentioned she did not look like Megan Fox in her confessional. And he also, which like, okay, let's talk about that because I don't think she looks identical to Megan Fox, but if you really look at her and you look at Megan Fox before she got any work done, I see a resemblance. I wouldn't go as far as to be like she looks like Megan Fox, but I would say there is a resemblance in their facial structure. Sorry. Like I think she low-key does kind of look like Megan Fox. And I feel like the internet clouding her is not very nice. But anyways, and Jimmy was like, oh, and she was like, did you think I was pretty or something like that? What'd you think about me, like looks wise? And he was like, you had nice teeth. I would have called 911 because you're telling me I had nice teeth and then you're talking about another woman that we were all friends with and talking about how she has a great body. Oh no. Oh, no, 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 no. So I don't foresee this going well. I see him meeting Jessica in the real world and it like kind of turning into a mess. And then there's Laura and what's his face. I don't really like Laura. She has bad vibes. Next, sped through that because we have two other shows to get through that I've been watching. Next up, we have Vanderpump Rules. Okay, I'm going to say something. And I know the show was filmed about 3 months after Scandival happened. So everything that they're talking about, like that we're seeing, like it's really new and they're it's really new to them. It makes sense why they're acting the way they are. I think the problem with this season of Vanderpump Rules is one, Tom Sandoval is annoying as shit. Two, Raquel isn't there. So I feel like that just like makes things a little weird. And three, I feel like everything I'm hearing and seeing, I've already heard. And that's because every single person on the cast went and got a check from a miscellaneous podcast they were either hosting or they were on. So I feel like everything that's being said and all of the actions and just the way they're behaving, I already know this because none of y'all kept your mouths shut all summer and y'all were yip yapping on podcasts. So now I'm bored. Like I feel very bored. And granted, I think we're only 3 episodes into the season, so there may be a bombshell, but I'm just like, this is boring. This is not entertaining. Like I feel as if I've seen everything I need to see and I can just go back and listen to whatever podcast Sheena was on this past summer. Or any of them actually. Like I'm pretty sure all of them actually had some sort of podcast appearance. So I'm just like, how is this interesting anymore? Like, you know what I mean? So I'm just kind of like, meh. Like I'm gonna keep watching. Like, don't get me wrong, I will keep watching. I'm just a little bored with Vanderpump Rules right now. Because I feel like I know everything I need to know. But I'm gonna hold out. You know, I'm not gonna judge too quickly. But I think if by like episode 7, we're not moving and grooving, I'm done. Okay, next we have Couple to Thruple. So one of my coworkers actually told me about this show, and it's on Peacock, and it is literally Couple to Thruple. So it's these couples like they go and they're on a little island with a bunch of singles and their intention is to turn their couple into a throuple. And it's mess. It is quite mess. I'm just like, who comes up with these show ideas? I still have a lot to catch up on, but I'm just like, I think I'm 4 episodes in and I'm like, whew, like this also just like does not seem like a good idea. Like, those reality TV shows that you're like, this just doesn't seem like a good idea. I also feel this way about The Ultimatum. For those of you who don't know what The Ultimatum is, it's a Netflix show where basically it's like couples, like one is giving the ultimatum, the other isn't. And like one wants to get married, the other doesn't. And so the one that wanted to get married gave the ultimatum. And it's basically like for 4 weeks, you like date somebody else from the other couples and like see what that's like. And then you go back and date your original partner for 4 weeks. And at the end, you have to decide if you want to get married. Again, another TV show that's like just a bad idea. Like, I don't know how you can come out of this with any sort of stability, But that's that reality TV wise. Pop culture wise, not much is interesting. Not much is piquing my interest at all, really. There was the Grammys. There was the Super Bowl. Did not surprise me that the Chiefs won. Slight eye roll. Yeah, like nothing is really clicking for me. So there's nothing to report on. Let's get right into the episode. Okay, so I'm actually really excited for this episode. This episode is a part 3 to the Just Like Magic ? Series that I've been doing. So to recap, first episode was about like manifesting and goal setting in general. Second was about New Year's resolution. So part 2 was about like New Year's resolution, stuff like that. Part 3, so the part we're doing today, is about blocking your blessings and blocking your own manifestations, like you doing it. I'm not just talking about like other people potentially blocking your manifestations, which we'll go into, but just like habits and things that we may subconsciously do that may block our blessings. And what kind of like convince me to do this is like sometimes like I catch myself doing it even to myself. And I know it doesn't make, and obviously it doesn't make sense. It's like, why would you want to block your blessings? But it's like, I think there's a lot of like subconscious beliefs that we hold about ourselves that need to be unpacked, and we should be doing that. But let's get right into the episode. So I'm going to break it down for you guys. I'm going to do basically explaining a little bit more about like what blocking your manifestations is, like how that may manifest like in how you feel from your day to day, examples of how you're blocking it, ways to unblock yourself, and then kind of being like, all right, now what? Like, what's next? And then we're going to conclude and get up out of here. I don't have an I'm rattled this week. So after the episode, we're just concluding. But believe me, I will find things to be rattled about this week. So do not worry. Let's get right into it. So, step one, what I mean when I say like blocking your manifestations. And I don't mean simple self-destruction. Like I think that's a whole other thing and like a whole other thing that needs to be discussed that I may not even have the qualifications to discuss. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the idea of like getting so close to your goals and like, you know, being halfway to the finish line and turning around, and like those subconscious beliefs of like, I'm not enough, I don't deserve this, stuff like that. Like that is how you're blocking your manifestations. I'm not talking about like, you know, roadblocks in your life and your upbringing or anything like that. I'm talking about basically unpacking subconscious beliefs, which I think we obviously all hold them, whether they are negative or positive, and we all, I think, they show up in our behavior and our relationships and how we treat others, and most importantly, and in this instance, how we treat ourselves. Like I said, I kind of describe this as getting halfway to the finish line and then choosing to stop. And I think that there's a lot of reasons we can do that. And I think that can, you know, it's just overall feelings of being discouraged and stuff like that. And I think this manifests specifically for me, like can just like feelings of hopelessness. And if you've heard me complain about it, I'm like just having feelings of existential dread 24/7. Like, you know, that's how like when I feel as if there's a blockage in my life, like that is how it may manifest for me. And I think that obviously like other people can relate to that as well. And it's just something that like needs to be talked about. I also think like for me, especially like this manifests in like a sort of confusion, because it's like, what am I not getting? What am I not doing right? What's happening here? Like, why am I not good enough? Like, you know, all of those things and like all of those thoughts and like things you instill in your own head, like they make you like go question mark, question mark, question mark. Cause it's like cognitively, I know that like I'm right there, like blessings are coming, like all this other stuff, but emotionally, like there, like I said, there just appears to be like a blockage. So, and I think like sometimes when I feel as if like the world or like the universe is blocking me, or like I'm not exactly like seeing the like, you know, the little lesson I'm supposed to learn or anything like that, I start to subconsciously just be like, you know what, I'm throwing up my hands. I can't do this. I'm creatively stuck. I'm whatever, like, you know, leaning into bad habits, stuff like that. So here are some examples of like ways that you could be potentially doing this and like blocking your own manifestations and like all of the good things that, and number one, that you deserve, and number two are 100,000, 50 million% happening for you. So one way is procrastination. And it's the, knowing like, I should do this at this time, or I should do this so I can like, I know this is just an example, but like I can do this so that I can get to bed early and like, you know, reach this goal or whatever, and not doing it and just like putting it off until later. That's not saying, and I'm going to caveat and say that I also don't believe in like productivity 24/7 hustle culture like that. No, this is not a safe space for that. However, I do believe in the idea of goal setting and taking your time and like setting intention. And when you're actively procrastinating, it's like you're going against those intentions you're setting, which could be a way to block your manifestations. Another way is just like bad habits in general, and like I said, not exactly self-destructive behavior, but things you know aren't good for you. Like, you know, I'll give you an example. Let's say that things that you just know aren't good for you, things that don't make you feel good, but you end up doing them. And I think a lot of the reasons, and in the past when I've like indulged in like negative behaviors or like leaned into bad habits, like, as much as like good things feel good, sometimes bad habits are familiar. And it's easier to fall back into familiar, like genuinely. And I understand that because I've been there before too. So it's just like, kind of taking that time and acknowledging that. So, recap examples of how you could potentially be blocking your manifestations is through procrastinating and just kind of leaning into bad habits when you know that number one, that's not what you want to do. And number two, that like may not be aligning with like your higher self or like the version of yourself that you are trying to become and show up for, because you should be showing up for that person and you should be doing that and acting as if like all of these blessings and all these manifestations are yours already, because guess what, babe? They are. Okay, so now that we've covered that, what are some ways to unblock yourself? Like when you're feeling like stuck or just like blah, like I said, feelings of existential dread. So the first step is to recognize your unhealthy patterns. That is the big thing. Like once you recognize the pattern, you can be like, okay, this is what I'm doing. Here's what I need to stop. I've started doing this thing where wherever like I feel an emotion or like do something that I'm like, oh, and that's not really aligned with like what I'm manifesting for myself. I've started this thing where I just stop and I'm like, okay, yes, that action, take that, but like let's go a little deeper and like take out the emotions that came from that. Like, were you upset? Were you sad? Were you disappointed? Like, you know what I mean? Like, unpack those emotions, recognize those patterns, recognize your triggers. Like, that is what's required. And I think once you start to recognize those unhealthy patterns, you can stop and just take a full stop. And like I said, like it will eventually like translate to your manifestations. Next up, we have do things that make you happy. Like, I think the worst thing you can do for yourself is be like, okay, well, I've been manifesting and I have my vision board and I have all this other stuff, like make it happen. Like, you know what I mean? And well, I did all the work and like nothing's happening. Like, this is a failure. I think that is the worst thing you can do for yourself. Like, genuinely. I think that it's not, I think a lot of the time people are like, all right. And like personally, when it comes to me, and I said this in like the first part of the episode, when I think about like manifesting and like living into your higher self and like your true values and stuff like that, I'm not thinking like the 333 method or like writing stuff down on papers. That's not really how I view it. I view it as a mindset. So that's kind of where I'm coming from when I say this. But the worst thing you can do is just like sit and wait for your manifestations to happen as if like you don't have a life to live. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you are so blessed. There's so much out there. Like, go find what makes you happy. And I think for me and for a lot of people, like finding hobbies is like a real way to spark joy when you kind of feel like you're in limbo and like your manifestations aren't happening. Like, find other things, find other outlets. Like there's so much energy and there's just so much stuff on this planet. Like maybe you can gain inspo for something. Like you never know where the universe is taking you. And I think like sitting and being like just idle and like while waiting for your manifestations is literally the worst thing you can do. Like you like creative inspo and everything just comes from the world around you, and like you need to embrace that. And at the end of the day, like even when you're not doing that, like just do things that make you feel good. Like have fun. Like this is not like some scary serious process. Like life is meant to be lived. Like have fun, find hobbies, find things to do. Like and this kind of leads into my second point is like remember that good things are coming, like no matter what happens. And this is something like really hard for me. And I have to like literally pound this inside my head because it's like, you know, and I know other people relate to this too, but it's like you feel any form of rejection, you're like, oh my God, the world is over. Like everything's terrible. Like my manifestations aren't happening. Like there's nothing coming my way. Everything's awful. That is not true. And I always like to say rejection is just redirection. And I know that is like, but you know, apply that same energy to myself. And I'm like, I don't want to hear that. I never want to hear anything of the sort. But just like remembering that like good things are coming your way. Like pay attention to the world around you. Like stay in tune and like know that like you are exactly where you need to be doing what you need to do. And all of those unhealthy behaviors, unhealthy habits are just harming you, and you don't need to lean into that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know what you need to do. It is within you. You can do it. Like, you don't need You don't need to pay for any like, career stuff or any whatever crash courses people on the internet like sell these days. Like it is within you. Like you've got this. Mind you, I'm not saying you don't need help. Never ever said that. But what I am saying is that like you have so much energy and so much love and so much joy and so much light inside of you. And I think a lot of the time, like we're trying to like find that externally, but just like remember the good and like just remember the good and remember all the good things coming and like remember the good within you first. Okay. Rejection is just redirection. And I know a lot of people say that and it doesn't feel good because rejection doesn't feel good in any capacity, but like what is meant for you is not going to leave you. And if it does leave you and pass you by, it wasn't meant for you. Easy peasy. And you just have to keep remembering that none of the work you're doing is going unnoticed by the universe and none of it's going unnoticed by whatever spiritual being you believe in. Like you are on the right path. Keep chugging along. And like, I'm saying this and I like have to like remind myself too, because I am not perfect. I am the furthest thing from that. Perfection. I am the furthest thing from that, but you just have to keep reminding yourself. And, so this brings me to my next point of like ways that we can remind ourselves things is journaling. And I don't mean just your typical journaling. I've said this before. I personally have like a really hard time journaling, but here are two things that like I've been doing. So one is like expressing gratitude. And I think that's really, really important just in general. Expressing gratitude for the life you have right now and expressing gratitude for the life that is coming your way, if you're picking up what I'm throwing down. And the way that I do this is like every night or, whenever I have a minute, I try to do every night, life is life. And I'll just pick like a random topic. So let's say health and wellness. And I will just write down everything I'm grateful for. And the other day I did like body image and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, like, I start tiny, like very, very basic. Like I started with like, well, I'm grateful for my basic motor skills and that I can afford contacts and that I can wear my glasses. And just like you build and you build and you build and you build until you're just like, well, actually, I'm grateful for all of these wonderful things that are happening to me and blah, 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 blah. And it's a way of like expressing gratitude and being like, great, there's all these wonderful things. There's all these wonderful things. And in turn, this is you just like manifesting that dream life. Like gratitude is so important in your manifestations. And I think I'm definitely somebody that can get like in a little complaining trap. And I even said this earlier, like one negative things happens and I can be like, oh my God, the world is ending. And it's so far from that. And I'm really fucking dramatic, but like, it's just taking that minute and being like, actually, it's not all bad. Take a deep breath. We've got this. Like, you know what I mean? And like I said, express that gratitude. Next up, and I've mentioned this before, your affirmations. And one thing that I have learned about writing affirmations is like, there are always like generic affirmations that everybody tells you to write down. And it's like, I am beautiful and I'm smart and I deserve, like, whatever. There's always like very basic affirmations that like are really good for you to do once you're getting started, like when you're first getting started. So what I've done is like writing affirmations with intention as a way to just kind of be like, okay, like, one, tailor it to me and the life like I live, and two, like give myself an opportunity to really, really think about like what I'm trying to reaffirm every single day. Because like I said, all those little subconscious beliefs we have that like, whether they were ingrained in us during childhood, during like, our lives or just like in general, or whether we've told ourselves these beliefs, like they took a long time for us to learn and they're going to take a minute for us to unlearn. So like through your affirmations and tailoring them specifically to you rather than just like whatever generic ones the internet's telling you is really important. And like, kind of instilling that into you will eventually like, bring your blessings in because they're there. They're like, and they're waiting to come in. Like I promise they are right there. And then the final thing I do is when I feel like, I'm kind of like blocking things, like blocking like my own blessings or like just not expressing enough gratitude or like, I feel like things are kind of stagnant and, I'm back in my existential dread era. So something that like I think is so important is to just no longer compare yourself to people. Do not compare yourself to people on the internet. Do not compare yourself to your friends. Do not compare yourself to your family. Do not compare yourself to somebody in the same career as you. Do not compare yourself to anybody. like point blank period. And I know everybody says like, the only person you have to compete with is yourself or whatever. You are on your own journey, like point blank period. You are a unique being. You are beautiful. You are groundbreaking. You are all of the amazing things that everybody says about you. And you are on your own journey. Like everybody, you know what I mean? Like everybody is just doing their own thing. Like there's no reason for you to be comparing yourself to anybody in any way, shape, or form. There's no reason to do it because you guys are all on different journeys. There's no reason to do it because you guys are all on different energetic planes. There's no reason to do it because this person isn't above you and you're not above them. No more comparison. Take all those people that you've got on your little pedestals right off. Plop them right off because it's not necessary. And I think like subconsciously, like putting people above you and being like, oh my God, this person's so much better. Or like, this is better. Or I'm better. Like, or even like thinking things like that. It's like, it's putting you in a position of lack. And you don't need that because you're not lacking anything. Everything is within you. You are not lacking. No. So I just talked a little bit about like unblocking yourself and like really letting those good things flow and like letting that happen. But it's like, for me, like I have a hard time like just letting things lie. Like, you know what I mean? It's like I have a hard time like accepting compliments, letting things lie, being like, you know what? Yes, like I deserve this. Like we're good. We're ready to rock and roll. So like ways that like I'm calling this segment like life after the block, like just kind of like really letting things in is so some ways that I do it is I work extra hard to be very clear and concise about my goals, very clear and intentional about the way that I do things, about the way that I operate. Like, obviously, like I said, I am so far from perfect. It's absolutely insane. But something that like I'm really prioritizing, especially this year, is being very clear and concise about my goals and being like, this is what I want. This is how I want to get it. And here's what we're going to do. And a really big part of this for me, and I know not everybody operates in this way, but like having a routine is incredibly helpful for me. Having a like, okay, this time we do this, and here are all the things I want to do for the day. And obviously, like routines are not for everybody, but for me in particular, it's very helpful to just have like, again, set goals and intentions and have things that like I want to do, metrics of my own success, like that are for me, created by me, and help me. And again, surround yourself with like things that make you happy and things as in like hobbies, belongings, whatever, but also people. Be very, very selective about your energy, guys. And I will say this a million times. Be so selective about who you let into your home, who you let know your goals, who you let into your heart, who you just let in your space in general. Like, be very selective. And I'm not saying go about like not trusting people. And, that's something I struggle with is like learning how to trust people. But it's like at the end of the day, like, just protect your energy. If there's anything you can pick up from anything that I ever say about anything, because I don't know shit about shit, but you need to protect your energy and do what is required for you to do that. End of story. And then another thing that I do is like, kind of like moving through like, accepting my blessings and like realizing like, my manifestations are right there. Like we're getting there, like we're almost there. And another thing that like I like to look out for, and this is like a lot of fun, like I just love to look out for angel numbers. I'm like, oh, 222, 333, 444. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, great. Like they're there. There's evidence. I'm just waiting on it. Like, the way I like saw this forever ago, and it was like somebody describing like manifesting and like, feeling very impatient and like potentially like blocking your own manifestations by this like impatience. It was basically somebody saying like, you order something on Amazon and it says it's going to be delivered Tuesday. You probably check once or twice and being like, okay, it's still delivered Tuesday. You're not sitting at your door making sure that it gets delivered on Tuesday, right? Like you're not like checking Amazon every single second and being like, oh my God, this needs to be delivered right now. Like, it's going to be delivered by Tuesday. This isn't something that's like super, like you need right this second. Okay, great. Wait on it. Like it's coming. Like you've got nothing to worry about. And so yeah, like that's just a fun little way that like I know good things are coming. I see the little angel numbers everywhere. Like I see little signs from the universe. Like tune in for those, like because they're there. They are everywhere. But that's that for the episode. Like I think the idea of blocking your manifestations can be like demonized a lot of the time, but like it doesn't need to be. And I think like sometimes we don't even realize like how our subconscious beliefs are like affecting us. So being able to be like, wait, there's a little thing I'm telling myself that might not be fair and might not be conducive to like the environment of growth that I'm trying to cultivate, and like going from there and being clear about your goals and like doing things that make you happy and just like remembering like good things are coming. Like it's so, so important. So this was a lot of fun. I loved this episode. I love doing this. There will probably be a part 4 at one point. I mean, honestly, guys, like it's very rare that I have this like big thought out like plan for like an episode. Like usually like if it is going to be like more planned out, it's because there's a guest. And fun fact, if anybody was wondering, we are going to have a guest next week. Very exciting. But usually like when I do a solo episode, it's like, you know what am I going to talk about? This is like the weirdest thing, but I will like go to sleep. I'll set an intention and be like, universe, bring it to me. Bring it to me in a dream. And it does. It always does. So I think that this episode, like definitely, I feel like other people needed to hear. Sometimes like I need a little reminder. So that's that. Thanks for hanging. So like I said, there's no I'm rattled this week. So we're going to conclude here. Thank you so much for being here. You are worthy of love, happiness, joy, love, light. I am so happy you're here. Thank you to everybody for following along. Thank you for being so patient in my little sabbatical and the little February break I took and didn't tell anybody about. Just thank you a million. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for keeping up on the TikTok. Lots of love. We'll definitely try to be more consistent with episodes, but just like everybody else, a girl needs a sabbatical sometimes. But like I said, we are having a guest next week. Watch out for this YouTube video next Monday. Yes. So Monday, what date is that? Monday, the 26th of February is when this YouTube video is coming out. I cannot believe that we are almost in March. Wow. But that's that. Thank you for being here. And remember to spill tea all day, learn more about yourself, ask the big questions, and remember not to take yourself too seriously in the process. I'll see you when I see you. Bye.